Hello everyone, I hope you had a nice coffee break. So this is a session 2 of monthly study intensive April 2025. I was just going to wrap up this chapter 4 and going into chapter 5, which is an extension of chapter 4 and into chapter 5. But I remembered I missed to explain something a little more in detail. So I just want to do that first. Then we go into chapter 5. The portion I really want to go back is page 160 to 161. I'm going to bring my heavy book in front of me. Here, at that time, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva Mahasattva addressed the Great Assembly, saying, etc., etc. But this is, as you keep following the whole logic structure of the story, it is really the explanation of how this Dhammakaya, how this world we live in, is formed. And then he lists up 10 elements, how this interdependent origination keeps working. And then let me use the shared screen so it's a little more clearer to everybody. Hold on. Sorry, I clicked something wrong. Okay, so this is the list, and I think you remember we used this list in the previous lectures. So according to this translation, it says, causes and conditions necessary for the arising and the completion of the ocean of the worlds. So this is causes and conditions makes this interdependent origination arise, keeps functioning, and upon which the ocean of the worlds depend for their abiding, and this is abiding, and then forms of the ocean of the worlds, the essential nature of the forms of the worlds, the adornment of the ocean of the worlds, the purity of the ocean of the worlds, the arising of the Buddhas in the ocean of the worlds, the kalpas during which the oceans of the world abide, the differences in the transformation of oceans of the worlds and the kalpas, and the gateway of the absence of differentiating aspects in the oceans of the world. Up to number 8, it was kind of clear for those of us who's been studying Buddhism. Buddhism has its own way of explaining things, causes and condition. Abiding means if it is an analogy of Indra's net, in Indra's net, the knot is the portion that starts to, so to speak, become visible or tangible, touchable. And then, of course, those things have a place in this, Indra's net that it really starts to appear. For instance, if you are looking at me in this room, and then let's say someone's looking at me across the this large table, and then this is where I appear. So therefore, anything has those rupa, shiki, anything that appears to be tangible has a place to appear. And then, of course, it has a form. And then essential nature is really, it's a way of talking about this space. It's a kaya, space. And of course, for us to be able to experience this world, we need both space and time. So therefore, it's connected to number 8. And this kalpas is their way of talking about time. And then adornment is basically forms, rupas, each one of us, if we, let's say, lucky enough to receive Buddha's teaching, and then we are lucky enough to be open to the teaching, and we practice, and we actually, how to say, verify this teaching is really correct and good for me, and because my mind is purified. So that is basically a Buddhist way of faith. And then what happens is it's a purification, so to speak, our body and mind, getting away from delusion, or how to control our delusion. So therefore, it's all somehow interrelated. The problems we had was this translation of number 9 and number 10. We really didn't quite understand what it was. So I went into the original language, and original language, if you are somebody who's already coming to the point that you can read both kanji and hiragana, 変化の違い。変化の違いは is differences in change. So for instance, you see something is changing there and something is changing there, something is changing quite quickly, something is changing slowly, etc., etc. But anyway, it is really recognition of things are changing. And then number 10, 方便、変化の手立て is the way the original is explaining, which basically meaning, 方便, I think I explained it, is skillful means. So they are talking about in ancient Buddhism, Gautama Buddha thought what he has discovered, what he really wanted to teach would be a little too difficult for the people who didn't have the high faculty. So therefore, he, as a skillful means, he used much more understandable language and tried to depict things from my point of view. So I explained something like impermanence is one of the first things he started to explain what this is. But of course, impermanence is experienced because I view the changes. So therefore, I feel things outside of me, and also I observe myself. Then everything is impermanent, everything is changing. But to do so, I'm basically separating viewer and something being observed. So that's basically part of the true reality. So Mahayana Buddhism really started to have this new dialogue, new narrative being brought in, saying, in those days, Gautama Buddha did that as a skillful means, but then you really have to break through. This word is breakthrough. Is breakthrough that first step of skillful means, and you really have to go deeper and to see the true meaning, what he really wanted to depict. So therefore, yes, translation may become gateway, or maybe gateway to the absence of changes, because if it is not possible because we are human beings. We are part of this whole Buddha Dharma, Indra's net. And it just like Zen language always say, my eyeballs cannot see my eyeballs. So therefore, as a little nod in this huge, inconceivable net, we cannot really separate myself from the net and see like a bird view, see the net. But at the same time, you can kind of crack into that type of wisdom. So therefore, that is the gateway of the absence of the changes, because from the point of view, though you just have to trust and, imagine it, from the point of view of Buddha Dharma, actually nothing is changing. It's just a moment by moment by moment by moment by moment by moment of interrelation. Condition is just happening, but this happening is happening to the time and place we recognize, but if my view it does not exist, it's not taking place anywhere. Because I recognize this as this place and this time, and I recognize this place is changing, time is flowing, but that's from me. So therefore, from Buddha Dharma portion, it's just setsuna. Setsuna is that word of, I usually just like to say microsecond, but technically speaking, according to Abhidharma thesis, it is 1 I forgot, but unconceivable numbers of a small number. So in other words, it's basically talking about entirely going toward zero, nothingness. So it's a very strange trajectory of the universe, of the world, of life. Buddhism is really starting to suggest to the world, and then to the normal, ordinary, secular world. Historically, probably thought the Buddhist way of teaching is kind of ridiculous and strange. And if anybody really felt for it, they probably felt it's kind of mystical. But that's number 10. So, but at the same time, as a human being, to experience this world, experience this Dhammakaya, we do have to experience from 9, point of the 9. But at the same time, while we deepen our practices and keep deepening the clarification of what Buddha teaching is teaching, we really start to develop some sort of wisdom to look at this whole universe from the side of number 10. So that's, of course, is two sides of the one reality, and it has to come together. So that's why it's included into 10. So I thought this was very interesting, and then I did a comparison study with how this number 10 lists up from this 80 Kengon and the 60 Kengon in the previous lecture. But I think I was a little short to explaining this portion, so I wanted to add this. And then after that, we go into page 161. Narrative continues. Let's say second paragraph in page 161. It says, Sons of the Buddha, generally speaking, there are 10 types of causes and conditions through which all oceans of the world have become established, now become established, and now become established in the future. This is a translation issue, but what they are talking about, it has always been established this way, and it is being established right now this way, and it will be established like this. So in another word, we are talking about the past, present time, it's always like this. And then, what then are those 10 of those causes and conditions are? Causes and conditions is yet another way of talking about interdependency. In original language, it's called innen. And innen here translated as causes and condition, but often we translate this as interdependent or inter. So let's say if we put this word, this is sho. Sho also means appearance, something just becomes born or becomes to appear or manifest. And then innensho is the one Okumura Roshi translates interdependent origination. This is the word, so I'm going to put a little color on top. It is pronounced as innensho. So in Nensho is the original word when we talk about the inter-be or that's Thich translation, Okumura Roshi's interdependent origination. That is the word we're actually thinking in our mind. So here, what they are talking about, to create this, what is the interdependent relations? What is this? What's interrelating? So, according to this book, it says, because of the spiritual power of the Tathagata, first of all, I'm going to read from 80 Kegon, which is your translation, the translation you have. Spiritual power of Tathagata, so it's Buddha's power. Dharma is such that these matters should occur in this way. This is a translation of Shizen no Dori. I'm going to explain it later. It's the same word 60 Kengon uses. Number 3, the actions practiced by all beings. So all beings in this case is Shujo. Shujo is everyone. It's not talking about Buddha or practitioners or someone who's really clarified what the teaching is, but everyone, Shujo, so all beings. And then what is acquired by all bodhisattvas in realizing all knowledge. So vis-a-vis everyone, and at the same time, there are people who really clarified and really wanted to do something, how do you say, facing toward Buddha Dharma. And that's, those are the people who are called bodhisattva. And then roots of goodness jointly accumulated by all beings and bodhisattva. So all beings and bodhisattva, both sides and both everyone, at least sometimes try to do something good. We don't know what is good when we are thinking this is good. You know, retrospectively, what we thought what we are doing good may actually turn out to be something else. But moment by moment, we have a decision making moment, and we do say, think something we feel wholesome. So those are accumulation. And then power of all bodhisattvas vows and purity, vows to purify lands. This is beautiful. And then bodhisattvas complete fulfillment of their irreversible conduct and vows. And all bodhisattvas sovereign mastery in implementing their pure resolve intentions. And what flows from all Tathagata's roots of goodness, as well as from the sovereign power of all Buddhas when they attain enlightenment. And number 10, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's sovereign mastery of the power of vows. I think there are quite a lot of repetition of the same thing. This is why I mentioned in the introduction, the earlier section of this series, A.T. Kegon has a little bit of an obsession from an editor's side. You know, it's like a designer really want to place designing as a first priority rather than contents. So, you know, instead of saying something more succinct and down to the point, they really need to make it into 10. So when you take a look at the 60 Kengon, which really doesn't show that type of obsession with 10. Of course, 10 is an important number in Buddhist teaching. 10 symbolizes complete, round. So therefore, sometimes symbolically, it is important to explain it in 10. But it's more in 80 Kengon, it is becoming more like editors or creators clinging into, formatting the editing this book, this sutra. So therefore, sometimes it's really easier to understand when you go back to 60 Kengon. It's almost like Okumura Roshi always says when he finds what the Dogen is trying to say is too complicated. It's quite helpful when you go back to older layer of Pali Canon, particularly like Stanipata. And so therefore he sometimes, quotes Sanipata and then compare it with, what the Dogen is trying to say. And then we feel, oh, okay. So it's really similar thing happens that between 60 Kengon and 80 Kengon. So in this portion, 60 Kengon explains this way. So I made it even a little shorter. Spiritual power of Tathagata, that's same as 80 Kengon. Sorry, not here. In your book, you can see. Now, next one is Shizen no Dori. Shizen is, well, it's nature, but when you say in Western language nature, you feel we are talking about, like, let's say Rocky Mountains, Grand Canyon, or this beautiful sweeping skylines to mountain edge of this blue sky in Vermont, and etc., etc. And then of course there's always this sense of man versus nature, or wild nature. But in Sino-Japanese language, particularly in Buddhism, this word shizen often to clarify we are not talking about that kind of nature. We pronounce it as a jinen. So ji is by itself, and then nen is basically what it is, how it is. So naturally, this is how it is and what it is. So in another word, I would translate this as a nature's principle. Dori is principle. Ri is, how to say, reason, rational principle, and Do is Tao. So Dori is basically principle, or you could actually translate as a fundamental truth. So what they are talking about is, of course, as long as you live on this planet Earth, water flows from high place to low place, and river starts from the mountain and eventually goes into either lake or ocean, and that's fundamental truth. In Dogen's language, I actually found out it is actually not the Dogen's language, but we have been taught that was Dogen's language for centuries. So many of us still like to quote it as a Dogen's language. But when he came back from Song Dynasty China, he said he came back empty-handed. And because what he has discovered, or what Gautama Buddha has discovered and taught, is just like eyes are horizontal, nose are vertical. So that's Shizen no Dori, Jinen no Dori, nature's principle, fundamental truth. So yes, this world, causes and condition, yeah, of course it does include that, yes. And then next one is action by all beings. This is also same. And then complete fulfillment of Bodhisattva's way. Samantabhadra's masterful qualities. And Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra is really more symbolic way of talking about the Bodhisattva way, and also Bodhisattva's action itself. And then of course this action is based on vows. So this vows is Seigan, Bodhisattva vows, which we often recite as a 4 Bodhisattva vows at the end of our lectures, or sometimes at the end of some ceremonies, etc. Because we vow, we have this vow, and we have this, how do you say, wish to fulfill, very strong resolution or decision, proclamation to myself, to ourselves, and we just keep on practicing and keep on saying, doing, thinking correctly, moment by moment, this place and this time, this place, this time, and that accumulates, and then it becomes causes and conditions to create this. So that's the interdependently create next moment, next place. And so therefore, of course, we learned this from Buddha. So Buddha's realization, and then Buddha's realization does not really, how to say, cause the next moment of action or function unless you have a power of vow of action itself. So the power of vows of Samantabhadra. So this is 8, and it's much more understandable than 10. So in another word, again, this Avatamsaka Sūtra is really focusing on this function portion, action portion. And this is also really helpful for us so that we stay away from this conceptual understanding of Buddha's teaching. And then you really start to feel, okay, so this is really about what I think now, what I say now, what I do now. And then that is really a contribution to this interdependent origination. This is the relations, and I create this relation. And that is a really important portion. And then that is exactly why Avatamsaka Sūtra is often talked about. This is the book for Bodhisattva. This is the sutra that teaches Bodhisattva's practice. It is really the focus of this Avatamsaka Sūtra. So I just wanted to go back to this portion because I thought we are a little short in explanation. So the rest of the pages, I believe each one of the people are going to read by yourselves. And then, well, we actually touched many portions of this. And this chapter was not that long, so I think we covered pretty good this chapter. And so we are going into the next consequential chapter. Chapter directly connects from chapter 4 to chapter 5, which is titled as the Flower Treasury Ocean of the Worlds. Now, this one is a little difficult for me to explain. So what I like to do is I'm going to read through the portion that starts the chapter, and then maybe I'll point out some words, particularly 2 elements, which is very important to understand what this chapter is talking about. And then we are going to revisit the lines, and then we examine each portion of it later. Okay, just in case some of you haven't really did any kind of a preview and haven't really read this, if I go right into the explanation, probably it doesn't make sense. So let's read first together. Okay. Flower Treasury Ocean of Worlds. Again, this is a translation trick. First of all, this flower, in original, it is actually lotus. It's a lotus flower. And then ocean, as you remember, is a very characteristic way of Avatamsaka Sūtra trying to depict this immeasurability of this Buddha Dharma. At that time, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva again addressed the Great Assembly. So, through, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, who, symbolizes our action portion, our Bodhisattva practice portion, keeps explaining what it is, and then that is really called as a world, okay? He keeps explaining Buddha Dharma in detail. It's almost like in Dogen's writing, Dogen's title itself, even though some titles sounds as if something easy to understand, but it is always some kind of synonym of Buddha Dharma. And as you keep reading and studying what Dogen is saying in each fascicle, you come to the point that, oh, he's actually using those titles of the fascicle as synonym of what it isness. And then what he does is he starts to say something very definitive. Then he starts to explain like this portion, that portion, this portion, that portion in detail, from this way and that way and this way and that way. That's what's happening in chapter 4 chapter 5 through the voice of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva is trying to explain this what it isness from this aspect and that aspect. And this portion is very interesting, but it's a little difficult to explain, particularly in English translation. But anyway, Sons of the Buddha, the flower treasury adornment ocean of the world, was purified by Vairochana Tathagata in the past when he cultivated the Bodhisattva practices for kalpas as numerous as the I'm sorry, I'm going to bring my book in front of the camera. As the atoms in an ocean of the worlds drew near in every kalpas to Buddhas as numerous as atoms in the ocean of the worlds, and in the presence of each those Buddhas purely cultivated great vows as numerous as the atoms in the ocean of the world. So therefore, portion we really need to pay attention is it has been purified, incredible, actually inconceivable length of the time. So therefore, ever since the beginning of the beginningless of time, and also this word purely cultivated, great vows. This great vows is the translation of Seigan. Seigan is translated as vows, but this is the Bodhisattva vows we are talking about. We recite at the end of the lecture series or at the end of some ceremonies, as numerous as the atoms in the oceans of the world. I'm going to come back and touch about this Seigan, great vows, but if you, just in case some of you are not familiar with, but right now I'm just putting out those elements we really need to pay attention, and then we go back here again. And then I continue. Sons of the Buddha, this flower treasury adornment ocean of the world is supported by wind spheres as numerous as the atoms in the Mount Sumeru. Now, this portion is a little difficult to just read through, so I have a pictorial image for you. So let me pull this out into, let's see, share the screen. Hold on. I hope this is showing on the screen. Now, this pictorial image was part of the handouts in the lecture series on Avatamsaka Sūtra I took in Todaiji, as I mentioned earlier in this lecture series. And then interestingly, this comes from a separate book, not about the textbook about Avatamsaka Sūtra, but a book is about this scholar who studies Indian cosmology as a specialty. So this is from a book of ancient Indian cosmology. In another word, indigenous Indian cosmology. So even before Buddhism, in a pre-Buddhist time, Indians have this sense of this world is created this way. And then, I'm sorry, there's no English here, but I'm going to keep on explaining with the book, okay? So it says, supported by wind spheres as numerous as atoms in the Mount Sumeru. So, sorry, this gray portion is supposed to be wind sphere. So actually it starts from wind sphere. Do you see? And then this dark portion is the ocean. Eventually you will come to this point, and it's on the top of this almost a tower-like accumulation of wind and solid earth. I wonder what it means. This is the portion we really need to go back later. So let me just go through this first, okay? And then the lowest wind sphere, which is known as, this is also English translation trick, it says level dwelling, level dwelling, is able to support all the flaming jewel light adornments above it. So it's very important to understand this wind sphere is called level. And this level dwelling, or level, is a translation of Byōdō. And I'm going to explain this later. This is a very important portion to understand what this chapter, or Avatamsaka Sūtra, or generally speaking, what Buddha's teaching is talking about. We'll revisit this. Let me just go on. And the next higher wind sphere is known as producing all sorts of jewel adornment. It is able to support the banners of sovereign pure light, radiant many jewel above it. So anyway, you see there's a wind sphere, and there's a next wind sphere, and another wind sphere, and another wind sphere. And up on top of this level, Byōdō, maybe if you can see, this is the word Byōdō. Byōdō wind sphere, there's something solid or tangible appears. So you're probably starting to guess what they're trying to do. And then there's another wind sphere. Wind sphere doesn't have anything in it, right? So in another word, it's like emptiness. On level emptiness, also Byōdō is in other English translation translated as equality. And then on this equality wind sphere, nothingness, there's something tangible. And then on top of that, there's another some nothingness, wind sphere, and then another tangible, and it just repeats over and over and over. So let me just read through. The next higher wind sphere is known as a jewel of awesome virtue. It is able to support all the jeweled chimes above it. The next higher wind sphere is known as equal flaming radiance. It is able to support the spheres of sunlight like sovereign many jewels about it. The next higher wind sphere is known as various pervasive adornment. It is able to support the radiant wheel flowers above it. The next higher wind sphere is known as universal purity. It is able to support all the floral flaming radiance lion thrones above it. The next higher wind sphere is known as a sound resounding in the 10 directions. It is able to support all the sovereign pearl banners above it. The next higher wind sphere is known as radiance of all jewels. It is able to support all the sovereign many jewel tree blossom above it. And then the next higher, turning to the page 180, the next highest wind sphere is known as rapid universal support. It is able to support all the smell clouds of fragrant many jewels above it. And the next higher wind sphere is known as various wandering palaces. It is able to support all the clouds of jewel-colored incense halls above it, sons of Buddhas, of all those wind spheres as numerous as atoms in Mount Smell, the highest one. So we finally came to the highest one. This is the one, a great line. The highest one is called the Treasury of Extraordinary Awesome Radiance. it is able to support the fragrant ocean adorned with a pervasively radiant many jewels. On this fragrant ocean, so remember this dark color, the black color is the ocean. So on this ocean, it says, sorry, on this fragrant ocean, there is an immense lotus flower. So here we are. This is a lotus flower, known as a fragrant banner of various radiant stamens. Well, you know how to pronounce. The flower treasury adornment, ocean of the world, rests in the middle of it. So we are in this middle of this, because this is where we are. Isn't that amazing? That's what they are trying to depict. And this flower treasury adornment, ocean of the world, rests in the middle of it. Its terrain is terrain is equally level. Again, this is Byōdō. In all four directions, it is pure, solid, surrounded all around by the virtual ring mountains. Its earth, oceans, and many sorts of trees are all distinctive. This is such gorgeous, magnificent depiction of this world we live in. Isn't that amazing? So what exactly is this portion is trying to depict is our question. Now, in Indian mythology, first of all, this is a very interesting portion. The beginning of this world, the beginning of this universe, shall we say, this Indian mythology does not recognize any kind of matter. Instead, it starts with movement. I think this is really interesting, because most of the mythology is God said, be this way, and there was a land, and God says, be day, be night. Japanese mythology also is the same manner, except this is collaboration with men and women. But men and women says, well, let's create a land there, and the land there too, land there too, and then it becomes ocean and land, etc., etc. This is very kind of like island nations way of thinking. And of course, this mythology actually comes, it's a mixed with oceanic mythology, and together with basically same mythology as Inuit and also Native Americans, forced migration to America, those group of the people who are now called forced migration Native Americans, such as, let's say, Navajo or Apaches. And then also has some elements from nomads group of the people. It's very interesting to me because thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, the people who came to this area was not able to travel through the continent because there was no route. It's so vast, it's dangerous. So therefore, they took the ocean route, and also above this desert area. So in other words, avoiding the desert area, then you walk through the middles, thousands of kilometers, current Mongolia area, and the Manchuria area, and then southern current Russia area to Korean Peninsula. Then it's reachable. Etc. I'm sorry, I'm really stepping aside, but talking about the mythology or creation, Genesis portion, right? So in Indian mythology, it's a movement. So this movement is symbolized by the word wind. I find it so fascinating because don't we actually currently taught about this new theory about the origin of the universe is, what's the word they use? Radiation? The word radiation is kind of tricky to Japanese, so we actually use the word ugoki, which means movement. And so it's not like there was some sort of matter created first, but it starts to have basically invisible movement of basically its relations. So it's really interesting that this interdependent origination or inter-be, way of looking at this universe was born from the foundation of this type of mythology in India. So in another word, India already had prepared some kind of foundation for someone like Gautama Buddha will be born thousands of years later, then start to see the world this way. Just so we can really have some sort of visual images. So in ancient India, when this whole mythological way of looking at the birth of this universe was started to be described, they thought this world they are living, at the center there's this really high mountains, and of course this is inspired by Himalayas, and then they call it as a Mount Sumeru. Mount Sumeru in our language is called Shumisen. You probably feel like, oh. In Buddhist temples, the main altar is called Shumisen. So that's one of the reasons why main altar in those temples are so large. As a matter of fact, if you are somebody who went to our main monastery, Eiheiji, when we do lay people's jukai, receiving and giving precept ceremony, at the end of the whole week, those people who received the precepts are invited to climb to the top of the altar. So in other words, they are going to climb on top of the Shumisen, main altar is Shumisen, Mount Sumeru, where Buddha resides. And then we actually walk around them and saying, when somebody takes precepts and somebody becomes Buddha, everyone becomes Buddha. That's a very interesting way of. But anyway, let me go back to this, mythological way of looking at the universe. And then around this Shumisen, Mount Sumeru, there are 4 major islands. It's again quite easily able to imagine because India is a quite large continent, but at the same time people who live along the ocean, as you already know, the origin of the Indian culture is along the ocean, along the area. Large rivers are going to come down to the ocean. So therefore, earlier group of the people must have felt like this is like a large, island. As somebody who was born and raised in an island nation, I can kind of easily picture it. But anyway, there are 4 major islands, and then this out of these 4 islands, there's an island situated at the southern portion, north, south, east, and west, southern portion, and this island is really flourishing with the trees called jambu. So therefore, it is this island or nation is called the Jambu River. So that is the original name of India. And then as Buddhism also take in this originally mythological, way of looking at the universe into their way of narrative, I don't think Gautama Buddha taught this, and I don't think Gautama Buddha actually tried to say anything about this. But of course, as a rhetoric, it keeps staying. And then, let's see, several hundred years later, at least it takes 200 years after Gautama Buddha dies before Buddhism starts to be more like an organized religion, and therefore starts to be protected by wealthy, powerful people. And then contents or quality of the practice really starts to drastically change. And this is the time we always call as an Abhidharma era. Abhidharma is basically commentary of Dharma. In another word, how to see what the Gautama Buddha actually said to be said, said to have said. By that time, it was really not particularly clear, because Gautama Buddha himself has already died a couple of centuries ago, and it was already maintained from generation to generation. And of course, languages are different, and also culture in each area is different, and they start to kind of absorb into local tradition, local superstition, local way of trying to describe, etc., etc. So there are so many different type of understanding Gautama Buddha's teaching. And at least there are dozens of group of the people in southern portion of India, and another dozens of people from in the northern portion of India. And then, so therefore, we call this era as many school Buddhism. Buddha-Bukkyo is the original word. And then each one of them started to say, no, my understanding is correct, and my understanding is Gautama Buddha said this. And also, what Gautama Buddha is said to have said is kind of short and succinct. So therefore, it leaves the space for interpret and also misunderstand. So therefore, they started to analyze and start to debate and started to write it down. That is Abhidharma. And then Buddhism becomes very conceptual and stagnated. And this is the critical point. It becomes like a trigger for the counter statement, which will be eventually called Mahayana Buddhism. But anyway, by that time, they are really starting to say, for instance, in Avatamsaka Sūtra, which was done by what is sesshin in? Gosh, I'm sorry. By sesshin, I'm just losing some Sanskrit. I believe many of those teachers' names are two English-speaking people. They use Sanskrit. But anyway, in Ksharon, Avatamsaka Sūtra, they explain this birth of a universe as movement. So mythological thing is now brought into Buddhism, and now it's written in Abhidharma Kosha. So it's kind of interesting. And also again, I keep telling you that Buddhism has not really doesn't have much to do with science. But at the same time, to the people who don't really have a referential point, I understand it can be helpful to refer to some kind of modern science. So it sounds really, yes, it does have some kind of resonance to astrophysics. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. And then another portion what we feel interested in is that this lowest wind sphere. Now we talked about this wind sphere, why this is the lowest wind sphere. In another word, why the foundation of this world is wind sphere. And wind sphere, by Mahayana Buddhism, we are actually symbolically talking about emptiness. And then out of emptiness, there's something solid. And in this, like metaphor, like symbolic way of talking about, it is, how to say, ground. So it's another word, it's almost talking about emptiness and form. And that creates the first foundation of the world. Yes? And then it says its lowest wind sphere, which is known as level dwelling. Now this portion is very important to understand. Is able to support all the flaming jewel light and adornment. I don't know which one. Well, let's see. I have 30 minutes, so what I like to do is for the next 30 minutes, I want to pay attention to that great vow portion first. And then I will have enough time for the rest of this session 2 and the session 3 to talk about this Byōdō level. I hope I'm pronouncing it okay. As you know, Japanese language doesn't have L or V or R or B. So when L and V and L is combined for Japanese speaker of English, it's a challenge. So it's level. Okay. But anyway, let me go back a little. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines before we picked up this word, great vows. Let me show you in shared screen again, so it's clearer to know what we are talking about. Okay, here we are. So this great vows is a translation of this word, seigan. Seigan is that seigan of shigu seigan. Shigu, 4, and gu is, gu is wide, but it's, magnanimous, huge, and not in a bad way, but it is really like, how do you say, beyond this concept of small and large. So it is really like embracing everything. And then seigan, sei is vow, gan is very often translated as pray, P-R-A-Y, pray. But when you say pray, there's a little bit of a Judeo-Christian connotation. So I always say, when I'm traveling with people from outside of Japan, and then we go visit like shrines and Buddhist temple, you see us holding gassho in front of the altar in silence. And very often you see us closing our eyes. So they think we are praying. Some people may be praying, but I am not praying. I don't pray to the Buddha, or I don't pray to the deity, but I pray with Buddha. I pray with deity. In another word, it's a proclamation, internal proclamation of my determination to follow Buddha's teaching or follow the goodness of the deities, in another word. So this gan is a little bit of a problematic word to translate, but I would say it is like almost like a proclamation of my determination to keep the teaching. So that's seigan. And you know this shigu seigan very well because we use this all the time. This is inter-school. It is not emblematic, recitation of Soto school. Almost every school does this. And also, origin of this shigu seigan, I think this is translated as 4 bodhisattva vow. You can see as old as some Prajnaparamita sutras, and also there's a clear explanation in Lotus Sutra and also Nirvana Sutra, which is something I'm going to pick up and like to talk about a little more in detail in this upcoming Fall and Winter Monday series about the Parinibbana Sutra in comparison study with the Mahayana Nibbana study, the Nirvana Sutra. But anyway, that sutra also depicts this. Many other Mahayana sutras actually depict this, early Mahayana sutras. So therefore, this formatted way of talking about the four bodhisattva vow probably was born as early as early Mahayana Buddhism was started to be already formed and written down. So which means BC first to Common Era first century, already this concept is already written down and eventually becomes a recitation type of vows possible to recite. So 主情無変誓願度、煩悩無尽誓願断、訪問無量誓願学、仏道無常誓願上 is the original pronunciation. And I do know among the group of the people who are following this lecture series, quite a few numbers of us have experience studying and practicing in Japanese monasteries, sometimes for years. So therefore, you probably remember this recitation in Sino-Japanese language. Always difficult to translate into Western language. So if you, I think Okumura Roshi wrote about this in some of his books. So you probably do know the process of translating this. Always a little bit difficult, but shujo meaning all beings, and then muhen is mu is negation, hen is there's no ending. So therefore, here it's this is the San Francisco version of translation, which Okumura Roshi I think also uses in his years with Sanshinji and San Francisco. Beings are numberless. Now I vow to free them. Now this portion is always, I think in some group in the United States, this do is translated as save them. I like to talk about this word do in much more in detail when Monday series starts sometimes in the fall this year. So because it takes quite a long time. But anyway, right now, just very briefly, this word do originally in the Chinese translators, they intended it as crossing with the imagery of this side of delusion, and then because of the teaching, you can cross from this side to the other side. So therefore, this crossing is basically free the people, liberate the people, save the people. So that's why we are translating this as a free them or save them. But as a matter of fact, this translation was originally mistranslation of parameter. So therefore, it's originally this translation word do meant perfection. But at the same time, I guess it is okay because beings are numberless, and I vow to perfection them, or I vow to offer them perfect understanding. And the next one is bonno. Bonno is delusion. You know the definition of the bonno. And mu-jin, mu is again negation. Jin is how to say? Skill. Skill is come to the end. So in this beautiful translation, it's translated as inexhaustible. And then I vow to end them. As Okumura Roshi often says, this is the typical Mahayana contradictory type of expression of the true reality. In one end, we do know what's going on. But at the same time, we also do know, understand through verification of what Buddhist teaching teaches us how this world is and how this is. It is really about moment by moment by moment by moment by moment by moment by moment of consistency, continuity. And that's all what is. Because what we all have is this right moment. And this right moment is also empty moment, time-wise and space-wise. And that's such a strange way this human body manifested in this. So therefore, once you really clarify this, all you need to do is this moment, this place, right here, right now, right here, right now. So, right here, right now, you can do something. So therefore, there's a recognition of continuity, but right here, right now, I can do something. But on the surface, it does look like a contradictory, but that's what the Buddhist teaching is about. Actually, from Buddhist teaching point of view, we usually live in a completely contradicted way without actually recognizing our life itself, our way of living itself is contradicting to the true reality. So anyway, 訪問無料, third one, 訪問無料生還学, 訪問 Dharma Gate. You already know this word very well if you're somebody who's been trying to study Chinese, Japanese, Buddhist scriptures. Ho, Dharma, Mon is gate, Mu, negation, Ryo, this is the denomination of volume. So, Dharma gates are boundless. It's a wonderful translation. Then I vow. I vow is a translation of Seigan. Again, we don't have any subject, but in English or Western language, you have to have a subject. And this is you are saying to yourself. So therefore, I vow is a natural consequence of a translation. I vow to. Here, I guess it's how do you say, sense of rhetoric of gate, so therefore enter, but originally it is study and learn, practice, gaku. I vow to study, keep on studying, keep on practicing, keep on experiencing them. And then Butsudo Mujo Seiganjo, Butsudo, you already know, Buddha's way, our own practice. Our practice is never complete. Mu is negation, Jo is up, above, but in another word, it is a completion portion, but it doesn't complete because moment by moment by moment, next moment is the next moment. So last moment you felt, oh, I completed it, but that's a petrified completion. So therefore, it never completes. So therefore, in here, it's translated unsurpassable. I think this is a beautiful translation. And then Seigan, Jo is a completion. Like Jōbutsu is a completing Buddha. In another word, completing Buddha way and completing the understanding. But Jōbutsu has to be also moment by moment by moment by moment. You feel, I did Jōbutsu, I got enlightened, but that's already a thought from the past. Next moment, you just have to keep on trying. So therefore, I vow to realize it moment by moment, but it is unsurpassable. So this is the vow. And because of this vow, moment by moment by moment, this interdependent origination, causes and condition, kept on creating this world, and then keep creating this world, will keep on creating this world, because hugely the element is our clarification, our action. So that's what this portion is really trying to intend. From just reading through this translation, particularly with my very bad pronunciation, it's kind of difficult to get the point. And then you just say purely cultivated great powers, numerous as Adornment, etc. But you know, when you really start to recognize what they are really talking about, isn't that I always feel, wow, I just feel such immense sense of gratitude to those people's effort. You know, I love reading and studying what people normally call koan. Koan is, I don't know how exactly this became a habit among the American Buddhist practitioners, but they often think koan is some kind of cutout of a puzzle. But koan is a portion of the longer dialogue which was recorded in basically our ancestors' biographies. And there are about 1,300 of them. And then at one point, some people really started to collect them for the people, for the next generation to come. Because this biography is really talking about the really pivotal moments of each people's growth as a Buddhist practitioner. So sometimes this is longer, sometimes it's very short, but it talks about, let's say, such and such was born such, and this is the reason why they started to study Buddhism and entered into such and such monastery, and then he sought after such and such teacher, and at the beginning of the meeting of such and such teacher and such person, he had a question and he asked this, and teacher said this, and he felt, wow, that really makes sense. So he really wanted to study with his teacher, and as he goes on, he had this conversation with such and such, this conversation such and such. Eventually, he was asked to lead another group as a teacher, and then he started to say this to the students, etc., etc. And then many of those pivotal moments is recorded, and then what normally people here think koan is that the portion, just a little portion pulled out and then placed into some sort of context by the editor of the collection of this dialogue, want to bring this dialogue to this direction. So it's a little manipulative. So it is actually better to read those biography rather than the collected so-called koan collection. So therefore, I usually like to read this, record of the teaching, which is a longer version of the biography, and it's quite amazing. And many of those dialogues are basically the moments of these ancestors' clarification or verification or deepening their understanding. So therefore, it really strikes me like really right into my heart. And many of them are such a humanistic story, and you really get to know, the personality, inclination, habits of these people. And sometimes you really feel very close to some teacher because you feel like, oh, I can really work with this man, Obviously, Dogen must have felt the same thing because in Dogen's writing, there are several people he really seems to like to quote these people. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this favorite stuff. So, but anyway, what I was talking about is in this koan, what we call koan study. I think I should call this as a Zen dialogue instead of koan. What was I talking about? I don't know why I started to talk about Zen dialogue. Oh, yes. So anyway, these are the people who lived under these vows. Yes? And then, so therefore, their life is called the life in accordance with the vow. that is Gansho. And Gansho is translated as living by vow. I have heard Okumura Roshi's living by vow is coming close to Shunryu Suzuki Roshi's Zen Mind Beginner's Mind in sales record. I have heard in Zen Mind Beginner's Mind is the only English book written for Buddhism who cleared the million seller marker. And I do hope Okumura Roshi's Living by Vow will go there as well. It's such a wonderful book. But again, reading the title Living by Vow, you may actually doesn't have this feeling of, oh, it hits me, you know. But now you do. You feel that way. And then if you don't live under this vow, you are just sucked into this, how do you say, what you were taught by this culture, by this education system, or by some kind of projections, etc., etc. You have never met the Dharma, so therefore you just follow, these principle of secular life, which is more the better, and it is really about money and fame and the power. And that's actually created by human mind. So in another word, it's created by karma. And if you keep living that way, it's the type of the living driven by karma. So that is always like a pendant. It is called go-sho. Go is karma. Living by, driven by karma or living by vow. It's the option we can take. And of course, living by vow constantly, 24 hours, is very difficult. Of course, we have a little moment of forgetting about our vow. But our practice is, again, moment by moment. If we catch ourselves, oh, I forgot, we can just bring myself back into the vow. And then next moment, based on our understanding and based on our vow, we keep doing action. We keep saying things, we keep thinking of things, and that purifies, that somehow brings wholesome elements into this causes and condition, and each one of us has effect into this entire network. So this is the portion this sutra is talking about. Avatamsaka Sūtra. Now, next portion, this is going to take a little while to explain, is about this portion. In this translation, translated as level. First of all, I just like to show you this. This is pronounced as Byōdō. Byōdō is often paired with shabetsu. This is shabetsu, and then often translated as Byōdō is equality and shabetsu is individuality. So you immediately understand this. Equality is a synonym of ku. I'm sorry, I should write in alphabet. Ku, and then shabetsu is shiki. By the way, I know some of you are quite advanced in studying colloquial Japanese. In colloquial Japanese, this word shabetsu is pronounced as a sabetsu. And then sabetsu is a discrimination. Yeah, individuality is discriminated and divided, so it's the same meaning. But this is one of those Buddhist terminology crept into colloquial language and meaning changed after several hundred years. So currently, when we say sabetsu in colloquial Japanese language, we are talking about something very negative, discrimination. So therefore, we try not to deliver that kind of mistaken image from Buddhist terminology. When we are talking about the Buddhist terminology, we pronounce as shabetsu instead of sabetsu. But of course, you may meet some of us or teachers in Japan who still pronounce this as a shabetsu. So you really have to understand we are talking about as a Buddhist terminology, not as a several centuries later kind of warped and twisted different meaning. There are quite many of those. For instance, Uchoten is at the top level of heavenly realm in Buddhist cosmology, which we don't really have to worry about because this is more about Abhidharma. And Uchoten doesn't mean anything bad in original Buddhist terminology. U is being, Choten is top of the top, and then heaven. So it's the top heaven, the top of the heaven. Now, several hundred years later, I think 1,300 years later, since the word introduced to Japan, Japanese language, as a colloquial understanding of Uchoten, is basically someone who's really arrogant, someone who feels he's like a top of the world, and he's like very behavingly so, arrogantly and discriminatingly, and also derogatory. There are quite a few Buddhist terminology. If you come from studying secular language and then study Buddhist terminology, you may make a kind of mistake. I'm sorry, I'm stepping aside again. So anyway, Byōdō, shabetsu, is like a shiki, ku and shiki. So Byōdō is spring, and shabetsu, individuality, is like a flower. That makes really sense, don't you think? Because out of this causes and condition, which is not visible, but obviously it's just a connection, relations of, let's say, air, moisture, temperature, etc., etc. Sometimes you start to see out of nowhere there's a little bud. Sometimes there's a little like a moisture, little like a fungus, and sometimes it is like a bud of the plant, and then it starts to grow. And when it starts to grow, each one of them are supported 100% in this invisible thing, spring. It is not a thing, but it's just a connection, spring. But each one of them actually has its own different individualistic form and characteristic. So this is yet another way of talking about this Buddha Dharma. I often use the word, despite of, I think this may be a little misleading, the word trajectory of this, how this universe is working. So anyway, this is Byōdō. And why this is the foundation of the universe is the point I really like to study with you. And then, first of all, before getting into that, let's just examine this word Byōdō. Byōdō is yet another two kanji component. Byō, the first one, again, I have to say, Japanese language is one of the very, very few, I think the only language in the world. There are different pronunciation on one writing, which causes many people so much trouble. But anyway, this word often pronounced as either taira or byō. Either way, it means level, flat. In another word, there's no ups and downs, yes? And so therefore, it's equal. And also it means ordinary, but ordinary meaning there's nothing extraordinary going on. So therefore, it's the same thing as no ups and downs. So it's just as it is. So in other words, taira byō is just as it is. And then the other one, Byōdō's to or do in this case, pronunciation also changes with the combination of the word. I'm sorry for the people who are studying Japanese. But anyway, it is either hitoshi or hitoshi or to or do, which means no difference in quality, volume, form, and so therefore it's the same condition. So therefore you may translate as equal in that sense. And then also it also curiously means in group and then also a rank. So if it is rank, if you combine Taira and Byōdō, it's the same equal rank. So it's very difficult to translate, particularly as a combination, as a Byōdō. And I think equality is pretty good, but I just wanted you to know a little more deeper so that why we came up with this English translation. And of course, with the English translation and any kind of translation, something is always missing. So I always wanted to explain. So what does this mean? Is going to be the next session. And it's very important, I think. And also, one of the reasons I was talking about this koan or Zen dialogue is that in many Zen dialogue, including Dogen's own writing, and this word functions almost like a pivotal, portion to make people really clarify or verify or enlighten what Buddha's teaching is about. So I'm going to use several examples and then try to see if we can really clarify this word level or Byōdō. I have a problem with the translation of Byōdō being level. Maybe it's a pronunciation, I don't know. But we will see, okay? So now we have a 1 hour lunch break. I'm sorry, I need to cut this short. 1 hour lunch break, and we will meet after the lunch break, okay? Okay, thank you very much. See you in a bit. Also, à tout à l'heure in French, I think.